Welcome, everybody. Wednesday, March 15th at 6:00 p.m. to the Community Engagement Commission meeting. Thank you for coming, and we're going to call to order. First thing on the agenda, and do a roll call. Commissioners, Aaron Asmus.
Here.
Silverdaro.
Here.
Cynthia Godiner.
Here.
Jennifer Kosaka.
Here.
Bill Norman.
Here.
Mark Sala.
Here.
Hey, number 3 for approvals, minutes of the February 15th, 2023 and workshop of March 8th, 2023.
I make a motion that we approve both minutes from the 15th CEC meeting as well as the March 8th CEC workshop.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries, minutes are approved. Are there any public comments? Anybody online? No public comments.
It says me.
Says me, okay.
I know who that is. Strange dude. I should have fed him last night.
Okay, so I have a slight modification to the agenda. Cynthia is going to school, and right now her class is ongoing, but she did come here, thank you for being so dedicated, to provide us presentation on her virtual coin proposal. And that will give us something, she'll provide it. We probably will wait for discussion because you need to leave soon after that to get to your class. Okay. Any objections? Okay,
Go, Cynthia.
go Cynthia.
Okay, so I did print out some notes I can pass around. Let's see, we've got 2 down here. Yeah, and then I apologize, my printer started to kind of act up towards the end there. I want to keep one for myself. The worst one. So I just kind of started to kind of brainstorm about this idea and get it all down on paper. And I wanted to start with, if you think of the coin as the simplest use for it could be a business card. That's how the idea came to be in the beginning. But I was out talking to a friend. He was wondering how to submit her event to the city's website. And I thought, man, if I could give her something right now, this is the point of engagement. This is exactly what I'm here to do. And I have nothing to give her. And I thought if I had a business card with a QR code on it, I could hand it to her. But then I thought, what's better than a business code? Here's a chance to maybe make something that's kind of fun. And I thought of like a coin made from like cardstock that looks like a coin. And so I have these examples. This is what came to mind, like just examples of like a coin that you make from cardstock.
Can you hold that up again, Cynthia? Sorry.
Oh,
I didn't
sure.
have her glasses on.
Yeah,
I can't pass her around.
yeah, absolutely. And then I was even finding that I could put them on a paper, like a piece of paper together. Because later maybe I would cut them. I'll get to that. If you want to hand them. So on the card, the business card that looks like a coin, you could have a QR code on there. You could have something that is a call to action about encouraging people to get to the website rather than just a business card. You could have the city logo on there. It could be changed out with seasons. I thought about the beautiful calendar that we have and those flowers, and they could be incorporated onto these cards. Really easy to print this from home. They're easy to make and they're cheap. So that's what I like about just thinking about it as a form of a business card to hand to someone with QR code to get them to come to the website. A little bit funner, I think, than just the business part. And then I thought about, well, given if it's possible that when you log onto the website, you can track an individual's like individual users via the QR code, or maybe there's another way to track people with like a user ID, for example, like a phone number. What if you logged on and you earned a point for logging onto the website? Some kind of fun little visual when you log onto the website and you submit or like enter into a survey, or you're doing a questionnaire and there's something there that says, thanks for your input, you've earned a few points. You could then use these points perhaps to do something like purchase swag gear, if we had that. Right now, I understand that we do have things like flags, maybe, but maybe we could get hats, or maybe at the very simplest, we could have like a downloadable logo that somebody could then print out if they wanted and put on a shirt. People make shirts all the time, or you could print something out. I don't know, it would just be fun. If you had some free swag that had a very nice Liberty Lake logo that you could then wear when you're at farmer's market, or stick it on your farmer's market bag or something, that might be fun. But even better than that, what if, not the best one there, because I would totally wear some Liberty Lake swag gear. But if there was local businesses that were also participating, we could support them. We could exchange points for coupons. Maybe somebody has a local business and they're willing to offer something like 10% off or 15% off, or maybe even more, who knows? But like, that's cool. I would exchange points for 10% off at Annie's, for some ice cream. And then so other examples were that, or the other one was like free product offer. Somebody else I was talking to about this was like, what if there is a restaurant that offered like a free ice cream with purchase of meal? So this is an opportunity to support a local business. And then if this is working and this is something that we could do, what if you could pick up, encourage people to get out and about by picking up more points, because they're easy to produce. You can print them. This is a business card. Buying business cards is not a heavy expense, as long as this would work, given that you could constantly change maybe the QR code or update the business card seasonally, or like, quarterly, or whatever we chose. So then you could encourage via the podcast people to support the local police station. Maybe they have a campaign going right now where they're trying to get the word out on something that's very important to them. We can encourage them to go pick up some more points at the police station, or the library, or the fire station, city hall, or any other places like farmers market, or even like another local business that's currently participating in that campaign. So maybe a local place that's that wants to drive some business, we can encourage them to go. That was the gist. I tried to really go fast, and maybe I'm going too fast, but that's kind of the gist of it. And as I started to work on this, I kind of realized that there's some work that I need to do. This is not what it would look like, but it's really easy to cut them out. This is obviously too big. I thought it was actually going to be this size. If they didn't read it, it's this size, just 3.5 inches.
Okay.
But
Magnified so we can all see
exactly.
it.
I got this at Home Depot, or not, Hobby Lobby, and they actually have them there too that have this kind of like circular printout as well. So I think, I don't know, that's the proposal in a nutshell.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Couple of. Oh, there it is. Okay. If it dies, I'll get another one. So a couple of things to kind of go along with that for consideration. I think the concept is could be really beneficial, especially as we look at trying to engage constituents in different ways and trying to have meaningful content driven along the way. There's kind of two different things that I was thinking about as you were kind of talking. One of which is how is there, or is there a possible way for us to create a evergreen QR code? So the QR code goes to a URL. Oh, yeah.
Apparently you talked too long.
Apparently. There, okay. So an evergreen QR code, or a QR code with a URL driven to a URL that we then made. So that URL is basically serving as a redirect. So, just think of it as, it's, www.city1.gov. Doesn't really matter what the actual URL is, but then we can control through a redirect, where that link is getting sent to. So if we want it to go to a specific Zen City landing page, so we can change it up. So we have that kind of dummy URL living out there that's attached to the QR code. And so for the month of April, we're going to have it go towards the city project around the 5-year plan. And then in the month of June, we're going to switch it up, and it's going to same QR code, same link. Nothing would change from a user standpoint, but now it's going to go towards the project around the new basketball court mural thing that they're doing, and things like that. So it'd be a way to where you don't have to necessarily recreate the QR code. You could have those things living out there from an evergreen standpoint. So, you know, Mark's got a handful of these tokens in his pocket. It doesn't matter that we're changing what the intent of the interaction is. They're still valuable, and they still would serve the purpose of reaching the constituents or having them engage in the way that we're wanting them to, and being able to change it in real time without having to change the physical asset. You know, so that was one idea that came to mind. The other idea is, this is something we did in our Chamber of Commerce back in Oregon, when we were living there in a smaller town, and was a kind of a cash mob idea. So when you talk about discounts and things like that, is there a way to basically encourage business owners to physically visit other businesses locally within Liberty Lake and kind of increase engagement on that level? So I think there's something potentially there, but I think it would have to be obviously baked out, but it's just another idea that kind of came to mind. Overall, I like the idea, I like the concept, and I think there's little things like creating it so it's evergreen, that, you know, we can continue to push that engagement where we want it to, when we want it to.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. I think it's great to be able to have something, and we've had an issue with not being able to do that before, so it solves that problem. I would say from a practical standpoint, so that nobody got scared anywhere with a rollout of stuff, either on our side or, you know, there's always that pushback from the community of like, you're tracking me, what's going on? Like, that's like a common thing up here. So to me, the first step is using it as a business card. It goes to the place we already have, which is our Liberty Lake page. There can be an added line or a box or something very small. It could go directly to the calendar. For now, I mean, again, this is like, if we were to do this tomorrow, have a QR code that goes to our existing site and answers the question that you're giving them the thing for. And then the next step in a simple path to get to eventually this would be that within that box or that space in our existing place already, there's something along the lines of like, you know, a code word or maybe that's where the discount lives, or a fun picture or something that doesn't have true value, doesn't cost anyone anything, doesn't do, it might just be for fun, because that's a lot of times with things like little pogs and little things, there is value in just playing the game for the sake of doing that. And maybe that eventually is, you know, maybe it's a riddle, and if you collect enough of these little mystery pieces, then you meet someone at our next event and you talk to them there and you tell her the secret, you know, thing you've come up with, and now you ta-da, you know, because I think it's a harder sell to go this far with just knowing how things have been for us so far. Something like this would be really easy to transition into higher places, and would be probably not a lot of pushback if all it did right this second was get us to our existing stuff. And to me, if I was meeting somebody at the farmer's market, for example, and I said, when is this happening? And they handed me the little thing with the logo. And they said, by the way, this is our living calendar. Anytime you want to look at the calendar, you can just click your little pog that's in your junk drawer, or if it has a little punch and a little chain on it, it's on your keychain, and you can always do that. And then I would say that the next thing before getting to the point system and all that, I love the idea of different places potentially having their different logos. You get the police station one, maybe that goes to the, you know, it goes to the same place, but it's to the police station function or whatever. So again, I just say that this is a cool idea to just be our first thing that we actually start doing with no, you know, nobody has to think about anything beyond that. They don't have to remember the rules. They get a thing and it takes us to our website. That would be my first thought on that.
Exactly. I absolutely agree that starting with it just as its simplest use was a business card.
Mhm.
And then later on, as we're getting more familiar with this and the cost and what what we can do with our Sand City partners and how we can use QR codes and how a point system would actually work. We can then, we've already started with these points. They look like coins. You're already kind of starting this idea and then we build on it later. And then it's something that can just stay with us. This is just something that's really easy to maintain, manage, update, add on, take away.
So I like the idea too of that implementation, that it's easy. I think it's creative, and we need something like this at the farmer's market because it can help to draw on as an outreach to people. And they're going, oh, well, this is new. And it's just like when we do different displays at the farmer's market, people just come by and say, oh yeah, I want to see what was up. And so that we can, it's a good outreach. And if we can start simple, I think that we can get people then more engaged in understanding what it's about and be able to utilize that. I think it's really a great idea. Bill and Jennifer.
It's been captivating to me, actually, and I just think that, as Aaron expressed, with taking this so that we can direct it how we want. And the challenge would be just to be keeping them alive, but I think that's going to be true with anything, and this is easier than anything I've imagined. So, and the cost is an issue. I've read the notes from last month, so that seems to address that in part also. Which is a good thing. It lets us do something that has potentially real power and do it on a short shoestring.
And we can start off real basic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think the presentation was well thought out. I like the idea a lot. I do agree that maybe having a slower kind of soft lunch to see how well it's going to handle in the community, but there's so many working parts right now with the launch of Sun City and all that's going on. So this would be a really great addition to that. And then, if everyone's really excited with this idea and the community is very involved in it, then I'd say, then we can kind of take it and run with it. But I do really like it a lot.
Okay, so
Exciting.
what I would propose, we took up, I know, you said 10 minutes, but we're sorry. I'd like to keep this on the agenda for further discussion, because I know Cynthia has to go to school. And to thank you for coming and giving up a part of your class. I really appreciate that. And appreciate the work that you did with your proposal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to present. I was really amped up and I've calmed down now, so apologies for that. Yeah, and in the future, I won't have to miss anything because this is just the first class for the quarter, for the whole program. So I'm like, but yeah.
It's totally understandable.
Yeah.
I think it's admirable that you need tonight on your first class.
Make sure you stay amped up in class, though.
We're done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thanks, Cynthia. Have a good class.
Thank you.
Hey, City Hall updates. I think everybody read the handout that David provided. Not anything
Any questions, or
new.
do you like the format of this? Is this what you were wanting a couple months ago? And you said you wanted updates for me?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that format really well. Just, we get to review it. and-
It's more detailed than I would have done orally.
Okay.
So I had one question as it relates to the mailer piece. So understanding city's budgets spent and done for fiscal year 23. And so for us to get something into the budget, we'd be looking at 24. Is that, first, is that accurate? And then, okay, and then. And then,
That's accurate.
okay.
I beg to differ with you, Mark. There is a.
We can talk offline, it's accurate.
Okay, So if, assuming it's accurate, so under operating under that assumption, if we were to try and proceed with something like this, is this an opportunity for us to solicit businesses potentially sponsor and help fund a mailer, or is that, I know that gets a little dicey with municipality mailers and things like that, but I just wanted to at least explore if that's a potential option.
Could be, we would have to look at it. Could be.
Yeah,
What about within our Zen city budget? I mean, is that just, when we earmarked it, was it just they gave us a price and we're giving them that price and that's what we have? Or is it a project-based sort of price?
Are you asking about the Zen City?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if the purpose of our mailer potentially is a Zen City launch piece on some level, was the approval for money for Zen City just based on a proposal directly, dollar to dollar, or was it a project based with some room around that? That would account for things like additional marketing for a said thing.
Yeah, so from a budget perspective, the Zen City expenditure is a fixed cost,
Okay.
right? But it was budgeted in the sense that we had an allocated amount for it. There are other line items that have funding, but they're currently allocated,
Sure,
right? Doesn't mean they can't be reallocated. But
sure. I just, oftentimes, when a project is budgeted for, there are other pieces to that, so that's what I was just trying to see if we're dollar to dollar for what the proposal was, et cetera, kind of thing.
yeah, so from a Zen City perspective, and at the time the budget was allocated, it was a platform.
Sure.
And so it just happened to be that the budgeted amount was less than what the Zen City cost was.
Mhm.
So from a current year perspective, we have a deficit in that line item.
Okay,
No big deal.
Sure.
Right? We, that happens all the time.
Sure. Okay.
And like, David and I have talked about many times, the allocation, the fact that this project isn't allocated doesn't mean that there isn't surplus somewhere else that
Sure.
can be utilized. But it's just presently not allocated.
sure.
That's the issue.
I see it's not a no, it's just a figure it out.
Well, and so the reality is someone else
Mhm.
would have to give up something.
Sure.
Or we would have to recognize saving something.
Mhm.
Neither impossible.
Sure,
Yeah.
great.
so for us as a commission, the next steps, if we were to propose something back to city for potential reallocation, would be to kind of finalize what this would do, what their ROI is, who it's gonna reach, et cetera. And then proposing something back to, I guess, probably to you to begin with, and saying, is this something that potentially would work within a reallocation process?
Would we
Yeah,
need
any of those
some
conversations?
really substantial justification too, what would that proposal look like to take it if there was any possibility?
Right, so let's talk through this a little. So we have an estimated cost. And so we're going to say $3,500 is necessary to fund the project or thereabouts. So the question is there a source that we can identify that potentially has a $3,500 surplus, or is there a project that we can defer or something like that, right, to free this up?
Mhm.
And so I think the commission's position would be, as an advisory board, would be an either or. Either we want to pursue this project this year for these reasons. And so, city, can you help us identify a possible source of funds? Or we're going to make this a priority for our 24 budget ask. And so we're going to specifically allocate a source for that project. And an alternative could be, can we find a private funder? Like you mentioned.
Right.
I mean, we would have to get legal involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, yeah,
But
and
that, but
that's,
that's a potential alternative, assuming that.
assuming it makes, well, yeah, assuming it makes sense and
Yeah.
assuming that there's appetite to pursue that.
Yeah, so there's a
Yeah.
couple of different options to, you know, to kind of navigate to get to where you want to be.
So do we have, does the commission have a direct connection or access to Zen City as we now engage with them as a partner? How do we fit there? And the reason I'm asking the question is piggybacking off what Summer said, if we were to, I mean, we're now one of their customers. And we have great expectations of what they can do, but part of that presumes that somehow we begin to engage the community.
Mhm.
And while I'm sure they have ideas about that, they probably are expecting that we do too.
Yeah, because Mark brought this up early on, that was kind of the hole that they didn't necessarily cover, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of on us. So it's somewhere, you know, just saying.
But they will have a vested interest in this being successful.
Yep.
So again, can we interact with them directly, or are we removed from interacting with Zen City?
Are you asking, does Zen City provide marketing materials?
I'm
You
asking,
know, who's
if-
our point?
I'm asking if there's a person or persons that we can talk to directly about this issue that we have. And, yeah,
I think there are just.
I'm not being clear.
When you,
Who's our point person? Is
So-
that-
Do we have one?
Well, we have one, their company, I just don't know on our side of things, who's gonna be our behind the scenes Zen City person or persons.
yeah, so generally, and we can then drill down into specifics. Generally speaking, if the commission wants to see something, Zen City used for something specific, or we want to put a request on the Zen City to change their platform to include something. Yeah, the commission can make that recommendation, and through city staff, we can have that discussion with them. If we're talking about currently, we have a customer relations manager that is in fact, tomorrow, I think, is our initial training for the configuration, right? And so from tomorrow forward, staff is going to be taking a hands-on design approach for all of the engagements. And so from a design perspective on each engagement, I would expect for the commission to be putting input into those things on a case-by-case basis. I'm not sure I'm answering your
Well,
question.
no, I'm getting at, I guess what I was really asking is, could somebody, say Aaron, call Fred in New York or wherever they are and say, we want to talk to you about successes that you've seen or issues that you've seen
Oh, sure.
with launch, and how much you think a launch costs and what does it look like? And is any of the money that we're paying you available for helping us do that?
So for the mailers, you would ask them.
Yeah,
Is
or
there-
the coins, you know, any. But it would, so we've committed to this and we want to be successful, and at some point, somebody needs to be talking about how this then is presented to the community so that they're aware of it. And
So to answer that question specifically, there's no piece of that fee that goes into marketing specifically. Zen City will help us from a messaging standpoint through their existing channels and our existing channels. But in terms of like separate print media or anything like that, none of that expense is allocated for those things.
so maybe that then speaks to the urgency or the priority of finding somehow, as you have said, in the city budget, something to help us and we're gonna spend this money, we wanna make sure that it gets traction. And maybe we haven't done enough to address that yet, at the city council level, but it needs to be addressed, or else we're just linings in cities' pockets.
Yeah, and as an advisor, as an advisory committee, we are advising them to spend some money on this part of the launch, I think. Maybe that's just, we make that official on some level. Yes,
Could, however, council has already appropriated the budget, right? And so, council isn't necessarily involved in the day-to-day budgeting decision-making. However, as an alternative, there's, in bullet number 5 or 6. 5.
Five addresses this.
It is an alternative in the interim, potentially, for using our current circulation of that, paper as a piece of it.
And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
And as far as the splash page, we can do whatever we want with that. We can design something. It doesn't have to be a text-only story or photo. If I wanted to give it an ad-looking thing, yeah, we pay for the page. We can do what we want.
and we've talked pretty consistently about multi-channel, right? And so that, we're not suggesting that's a replacement for the mailer ID. But in the interim, it can certainly be another way to get a message out to a wider audience of people. And so, that's something to consider.
Sure.
So if we do, and we move forward, we know that we have to, this is a part of, and we talked about this at the last meeting of branding and campaigning. Can we, does the group feel that we can still keep on working on this design and budget, how we're gonna get the money concurrently, knowing that we're looking for alternatives and the budget is still, we understand that, is still up for grabs, I get it. But we don't want to all of a sudden, so yeah, you can have the budget and then we're behind on design and we're all sitting there going, oh, what do we want? What do we want? Because if you look at that, what we did on the last meeting, we came up with some pretty good, design criteria, right, Bill? And that's useful either now or somewhere down the road. And we're still looking sort of for that big, I always call it the wow factor, that saying, that something that's gonna catch the eye of the people. So while we're working it, I think if the group feels comfortable doing it concurrently, knowing that we got this budget thing hanging out there. But we don't want to all of a sudden get the budget and then we're behind,
Absolutely.
because now we don't have a design. It's like, well, what are we gonna do? We gotta hurry up and get something because we gotta hurry up and get it launched and get the campaign going. So it just, everybody just knows, they'll know what the situation that we're in is. That feasible? Would we agree to that?
So, that is completely the commission's decision to make.
Oh, okay.
What I don't want to do is to give you false hope, right?
Right.
And so I just want to make sure
Okay.
that you're
We
operating
will.
the
Even
understanding.
if it's 2024, we have an obligation to, at least an opportunity to. Whenever it comes, we should be ready for it, is what you're saying.
I'd rather we be proactive than reactive.
Yeah.
And still knowing that we have those elements of risk out there.
Right, and to that point, I don't, at the same time, I don't want to see you invest time and energy in something that doesn't have immediate funding. But the trade-off is, like you described, if we're able to identify funding, or if we're able to utilize private funding in some way,
Right.
then you have something ready to go, or close to ready to go. And so
Yeah.
it's really just a balancing act, but it's completely the commission's decision on how they want to proceed in that way.
So how does the commission would like to proceed? Let's just do around, Aaron, or this.
On which aspect?
Well, on the aspect that we continue working on the design, and we know that in the budget concurrently, we know that maybe we can get private funding, maybe we can, but is both concurrently and knowing those salient risks.
So I'll answer that and then add to it. So one, I think regardless of what funding is available today or in the short term, I think it behooves us as a commission to plan out saying this would be our ideal scenario. And if it doesn't happen this year, then we build it into the plan for 24. And we already have design concepts, marketing ideas, other things built and ready for implementation and ready for presentation to the city council as well. So we have, you know,
Yes.
gives us that time to do that. So if there's an answer is, you know, hey, we don't have funding from that we can reallocate, and we can't do the sponsorship idea. We can come up with other strategies in the short term to still deliver a message positively. So we could still do that. But then we can build in that into a plan for 24 that we can present from a commission standpoint to the city. So I would, my opinion would be not to stop, but using this as an opportunity to continue to build on the plan for the next year. The second piece to that, as we talked about the splash, and I think this is, you know, maybe there's an opportunity as we try and tie in the launch of this along with getting information out about what the commission is doing, is, you know, doing some sort of a pre-written article for the Splash, Liberty Lake Magazine, current, anything else local, talking about what the commission's doing, why it was formed, picture of us, and driving people to engage. So that should be, to me, I think that's like, you know, from a timing standpoint, and when we look at like the logistics of it, we've got Zen City in development, you know, article could launch the same time we're launching the URLs and the Zen City pages and those things going live. Whether we have a mailer that drops the same time or not is inconsequential, but having that continued message going out and putting some names to faces, making it personal for folks and giving them an opportunity to actually start voicing their pieces, especially as we're talking about the 5-year strategy being really the first initial push from a project standpoint that they can engage in. It'd be a great way to be able to really show that, hey, the city's has this thing, now it's really doing something, you know, and there's something to show for it and a way to engage. But some sort of, you know, editorial, so to speak, about who the commission is, why we're all, you know, we all have different backgrounds. We're from all over the area, you know, and different lengths of terms of residency. I mean, there's a great story to tell about, you know, you get a diverse group of people come together to engage the city in a proactive
Yeah,
way. So,
we all use our subject
Of which
matter.
there are still vacancies.
of which there's still some vacancies. So if you want to join.
We've got 17 empty seats.
I'm just gonna go around the
But-
table.
So anyway, so just to summarize, yes, I think we move forward. I think in the short term, as we look at, you know, over the next 60 days, I think we as a commission, and again, whether we do it as a secondary workshop or whether we do it in the next meeting, and I'm gonna draft something up for you guys to look at, but we need to have a communication plan for our commission, be able to present to David and say, here's some ideas and some things and how we go about messaging this and how that's gonna lead into farmers markets and all the other things down the road.
Yes,
So-
because we need to get the talking points.
Yeah.
Okay, next, Mark?
I'll go with majority.
Okay, Summer?
I have a question, for the splash, is there any history of inserts or anything that ever, I haven't seen any, but anyone ever seen an insert in one?
Bring that up.
Okay.
I talked to Chris Howard today
Uh-huh.
at the Splash. You accept these?
I was gonna say, I think you probably, yeah, but do you have details on that?
Yes, go ahead.
And
Yeah, I'd like to hear those.
10,000 insert to $1,500.
Love that,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
We don't have any money.
and we didn't plan this conversation. Okay, great, thanks for that answer. Also, I would say that, again, I get where we're at, so I'm not trying to come up with some random new thing. I'm just saying, I think it seems like, and we could be official about this, but it seems like we still are of the position that if there is money to be found, for said project, it should be known that as a group, we advise that. And it's not up to us to find it, it's not whatever, but I think that it would be useful to know that as a group officially, whether that's in our next update to city council or to the staff members that are engaged, they're actually doing this, or to you or to anyone, that we find that we have very valuable piece of our expensive launch. And is not atypical to launches. And then also for this for the design stuff, I mean, I guess for me, I get a little bit like, design is, while it's very important and this is a big deal, it could maybe be a special workshop, and once somebody says go, if we have a general idea of what we want, then we start doing it, but it makes me crazy personally to go into the details of what something's gonna look like, and then it doesn't exist, that just makes me nuts. But if we're going to go through that, then it could be something that we could present as a digital thing on some of our platforms, whether that's Facebook or whatever. If it can't be launched as a mailer, at least the same design and the things that we've come up with go out to somewhere and just die in here. That's it.
Okay, so I'm willing to continue with the design, so I'm sorry, Sam, I am into details, I'm so sorry.
That's fine. I'm sorry you told no after work.
But I'm willing to risk that because I'm proactive and I believe that if we keep working toward trying to find that budget, that we're not going to be having several, how are we going to design this? What are we going to do? And going through this in a rapid pace. And now we've already started the workshop. We have some ideas. I get it. I understand budget, but so I would be more in favor of continuing where we're going, as if we were hopefully going to get the budget and just work on the budget concurrently. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like Summer's idea of keeping in mind, if we're going to continue to work on this, because if we're going to continue to work on, for example, the design of the mailer, do it with the understanding that it is usable online, so it doesn't require additional things. But I also think, and I feel this strongly, that we do have a responsibility to the city council as well as to the citizens of the community. Our job is to be drumming up things. And once we feel good about whatever this mailer looks like, there's got to be more stuff for us to be doing. So I have seen us sometimes so far down a rabbit hole that it does feel like scratching our nails on the chalkboard a little bit. In addition to that, we should also refresh sort of our pool of ideas for things that we can and should be doing. Certainly, we're going to come up with ideas that don't require budget. And I don't know what those are, but I don't think we should be discouraged by this. I think we've got some good ideas. We feel good about Zen City. What Cynthia presented today is particularly kind of exciting also. So I think we should just keep going and demonstrate, particularly to the city council, that we're doing the work, and when we ask for budget, they'll be more enthusiastic about allocating it to us, and more likely in these interim periods of allowing us money if it does become available, and we don't appear to be either sullen or hamstrung by the fact that we don't get everything we want from them. Right? I think this is the way things work.
I have a logistical question, like for David. Okay, so if we were to fabricate, say a virtual mailer or something of that sort, does that require a budget to do so, or is it mainly the printed materials that are the budget?
You mean designing material?
Yeah, to have someone
That's my
design,
job here.
that's your job here, so,
He can't wait.
Bachelor's degree in graphic design.
He can't wait.
I've
perfect.
been doing this for years.
So I would say then, is it, yeah, it is sort of a balancing act between, you know, being ready and prepared to launch something should that become available, but I do think right this second, maybe having that greater priority to figuring what we can do right now with the, you know, the launch that will be in the city soon, is that, you know, we can't put all of our chickens in one basket. Eggs. One basket. I can't try to put all the chickens in the basket, I'm not looking very happy.
If it's with French fries, it's probably.
But, so yeah, so if we could design something like that and find alternative avenues to, you know, launch this, and then it would be giving the city council some more information too, with what the need is. If we are not feeling we're reaching an adequate audience, that we need to have, you know, a physical paper mailer that's sent out. And just give us some more information, and we could go out and have this, you know, be part of Greenstone thing, and have local businesses put it on their own Facebook pages and the city webpage and the podcast. I mean, there are alternative avenues for sending some of this stuff out for now, and then that would also let us piggyback onto what we want to make that physical mailer look like, because it's really kind of just a paper copy of the virtual mail. So we're doing both with the design. It's just that it's
Mhm.
a virtual instead of a paper copy, and then we can eventually send out a paper copy when the budget becomes.
And I also think when we looked into go with Zen City, it was something that, and I personally didn't think of it, but, you know, anytime you get something like this, it's pretty exciting, Zen City, you get that platform, but then it takes something to launch it. You campaign for that, and it takes money.
And we knew, I mean, we discussed that a lot, and we knew that the reason we needed the mailers because everybody's not online, and those are the people we needed to reach. So it's not just that that's another one of our avenues. We were we as a group were pretty sure that we were gonna miss people, or we were worried about missing that particular group. So as we're advising them, I think that's a key point to remind everyone. It's not just because we want another way, like, we felt that was actually missing community engagement, and so if we could just make sure that message is passed along before it gets forgotten about those people.
And I think that's part of the importance of doing, you know, virtual first, is that we're saying, hey, we're missing out on all of these people. This is important. Without that, then it's kind of a, well, have you tried this? You know, and
Sure.
this way we'd be like, yeah, we did do that, and it wasn't enough. We need more.
Okay.
One option in the interim that we can look into, and it's not a perfect replacement, is working with the utility districts to see if they would be open to having an insert in the bill or something like that.
Yeah.
That may be, you know, an alternative that is no cost or low cost that we can, see if they're willing to partner with us on.
Yeah.
In the interim as well, so.
Well, are any of the private events, would be willing to sponsor something? I know we had to get legal into that, but, you know, part of this mailer that we wanted to do was going to show the calendar of events for that month. So, you know, like, would Kiwanis be willing to fund something up for the garage sale, if they were gonna be keynoted in on that calendar, or whatever else event that wasn't city sponsored? Were you gonna say something like?
Mark, one question for you on the utility piece is, do we have access, or could we utilize, because I just got the email, about, backflow testing?
Yeah.
So there is a data.
Association.
It's a thing, but as many of us have gotten that email from the city saying you're due for your backflow test, can we utilize those email addresses within that database to put out messaging like this? And if so, do we have any idea how many people actually are, or how many residents, it wouldn't be people, but how many residents would even be in that grouping?
So if we have those email addresses that we're using for that, I would say that yes, we could potentially use them for other purposes. You know, I'll need to run the graphs on what that may look like, but just sitting here, I would say
Theoretically.
almost certainly we should be able to use those because we own that data, so.
Okay. Okay, so that would be another avenue for us to explore and be able to
Sure.
reach, and same thing in that utility end. Great.
Does the city own the data for, say, sewer district, electric company?
Water sewer is private.
Yeah, I mean, if we're the ones sending out the messages, we're sending them out to a list that we own. If we're utilizing water, sewer, electric, which we can partner with them to see what those options are. But they would own those customer lists. Whatever we're sending out to our own list of email addresses.
Right. Yeah, the drawback with the backflow testing is it'll miss the apartment complexes and condos and those types of things. But if we piggyback that with, you know, us as commission members, having a physical piece we can go to and have a conversation with the, you know, the apartment complex managers or the condo association folks and saying, hey, how can we get this, you know, information pushed out to your residents so they can participate as well? I think there's ways we can get to those folks that would not be on that email list.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
If we think hard enough.
Yeah.
So now, I think we kind of get that, because we want to keep designing, we want to keep looking for the budget concurrently, okay? So I'd like to ask the group that we continue, the workshop continue. This is going to be on the agenda. And that we continue with the mail card design proposal and B, budget funding. Is that acceptable? Perfect, okay. New discussions. So what I did a little rough draft, and it's very rough draft. It's a sort of a spreadsheet, and it's actually filling in more now because this is not, but I was working on it today. And I'm trying to get together all the things we talked about for 2023 planning. We talked about farmers market. We need to have tasks associated with those. I know that we have a town hall plaza that the CEC is going to be asked to provide some support. We always have the Zen City Launch campaign, which we are confident about that. We have the coin, I call it the coin exhibit, but the virtual coins. I'm going to be working more on this, and I'm open for suggestions. If anybody has any that can make it better, but I want it to be so that we have a planning where we know the task, where we know where it's at and where we're at. So then we just all on, this is an awful pun, but we're all on the same page in essence. Does that sound good? And I will fill this out. This is a very rough draft. Sorry, but thank you.
That's for one of the action, I put trailhead.
Okay, great. Trailhead, okay. Because we need to start getting these on the agenda, starting to get some definitive dates, items to do.
Till we find out what's happening with the city council and mayor. Because right now, it's whoever's running for office can't man the booth at farmers market.
At farmer's market,
And
right?
at this point in time, we got 6 city council people who won't be able to attend, and we have a mayor who won't be able to attend. And the 7th city council member never attended. So in other words, we have no one except the commissions and hopefully city staff, some city staff, but that one won't have either. So I would suggest us get together with, at least with the farmers market, you know, once we know, hopefully at the next meeting, they discuss this and they override what they've got right now. So people from city council and the mayor can still be in the booth during the farmers market, but that's plan A. Plan B, if we have to fall back on plan B, and we're gonna have to figure out how many days of the week do we want to work it as CEC? How many days we want to have the Parks Commission work it? How many days we would like to have the other commission, Planning Commission / maybe the library It's just suggestions, because I don't want to throw this farmer's market thing all on one commission that has to handle it every Saturday. Because that's not fair. And so it's just something to put on the back burner, if you will, because until we find out where the city council is going to go with the vote on this, hopefully that happens at the next meeting. But I think we should be, looking at a plan B, so we can take it to city council or whoever. This is what we suggest, but we have to get Parks and Art involved with it, the library involved with it, because I don't want to go to the planning commission and tell Lisa, oh, by the way, you guys are working one day out of the month.
I agree, that's a great.
That's just a suggestion, so.
No, I think that's great, and, Mark M, I'll say. You and I briefly, but we had a talk on that too, and how we can best integrate, and I'd be happy to help with that planning, and we would if needed,
Sure,
or as needed.
yeah, I think regardless of what decision city council makes on who is and isn't going to be eligible to attend that, it makes sense to have a
Mhm.
broader rotation of commission members available so that people who are at the farmer's market who may have questions that are more planning related, have somebody that has planning commission expertise and parks and arts expertise. That just makes sense. I think.
It does.
Yeah, I think it
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense to have a broader rotation, and that way you're sharing the workload versus having it fall on 2 or 3 people.
Mhm. So, and I think that's a great idea. Yes, Bill?
Reminded me that, the farmer's market begins in May. So like,
It's like about the 20th, something like that.
May
It's a
20th.
little later. than it
And
was
and
last
how
year.
long does it run on Saturday?
So it's on each
9 to 1 o'clock.
9 to 1.
I mean, I would also say that since some weeks there are people available, some weeks there aren't, it'd be, as a commission, I think it might be interesting for us to compile things or at least contact information from each of these groups and be sort of the point or the lead, whether it's city council there or not. Maybe that shifts to us being a little bit of the lead at this booth as far as having, being that engagement. So if we don't have the answer and they have a planning commission question, we know as a group really how to direct them. Instead of some of us just being experts, if we really compile something official that is even just for our own talking points or is to hand out or pieces to hand out, I think maybe we could, just having gone through the experience of doing it kind of on the fly before, feeling like volunteers, just sort of doing our best. If we could really plan, and I'm just saying this to add to your spreadsheet, if we could have some sort of plan for each of these things that are events, to really have whether that's a community engagement booth at Barefoot in the Park or an add-on to the ticket booth that's there, and we have a person there. I'm just wondering if maybe our person that's there really represents our commission, very specifically, in some way.
I put it on here, so I'm gonna add that on here because we have to get going this, we've talked, but then now comes where it's summertime, rubber's hitting the road. We gotta get the task, we gotta get the identifiers
Sure.
and everything. So this is very good. Thank you. I'm gonna start adding.
Yeah, even if we have a contact list for each thing that we could have, that would be super helpful. Just a printout of involved parties. That's public.
Contact list, that's fine.
And again, for all important things.
Okay, I have that on there. So what time is it? I know that,
Just said 7 o'clock.
Then,
Martin needs to,
No, just keep going.
oh, okay. So we talked about, this is what we talked about last time, we talked about Zen City localized naming and branding suggestions, and do we really want to keep on referring to as Zen City? How do we want to, what are some ideas?
Well, I guess I'll have a first question back to.
Uh-huh.
See, yeah, exactly. Back to more David and Mark, which is, do you guys have a, terminology that you're wanting to use for the city as it relates to the platform, whether internally or externally.
This did come up briefly at a city council meeting, maybe a month or two ago. And I don't want to put up one of the names that was suggested, because I don't want that to be stuck in your mind, that you kind of focus on just that idea. I want wide open creativity, if anybody has a suggestion, either tonight or the days, weeks to come. I think I just lost the microphone.
You want mine again?
This will help. Yeah. From what I recall, we're talking with Zen City, we do need to have I think it's a dot Zen City at the end of the URL. But we are allowed to add something to the front of it, so it doesn't have to be log on to zencity.libertynet.com or whatever. If there was a different URL that you could think of, it would be friendlier, localized. That's really going to be beneficial to create local ownership of this thing. Again, if you really wanted to, you can look at the recordings of the city council meeting a couple meetings ago. But I don't want you to be confined to just thinking of one idea that came out from that. So if you, I'm just looking for ideas from you folks as far as what you think could be named. Keeping in mind, we do need to have like a /zencity.com or something at the end of it. But a main name, welcome to Liberty Lake or something, that's not it, but something like that.
So would, how about for the next, this is I'm writing the agenda for next time. So how about each person come up with one or two ideas or more on branding? And we'll discuss that.
Can you explain what we're looking for here? I'm confused.
Are you looking for some of the community
Yeah.
feedback, Liberty Lake community feedback?
Yeah, it's some kind of a catchy name for this thing, so it's not just the Zen City site. It's got some sort of.
Right,
Liberty Lake
because
local
nobody will
connection.
understand, yeah.
And just, Zen cities, and some people are not into Zen.
You know,
You're gonna lose
that's
that.
it, yeah, uh-huh.
But if you have something in it that's our Liberty Lake community, okay, suddenly you create a connection to that locally. Is that the best name out there? I don't think so, but here's where your creativity and fact that you live here comes into play.
And are we, and we are locked into having, do you know, is it Zen City at the front or the back? Do you know?
I'm gonna ask that specifically tomorrow.
If we knew, I think if you could get us that information, because if we're gonna do planned words, or, I mean, if it already has Zen City in it, that'd help.
My recollection is it's at the end.
Okay, whatever specific restrictions, if we could get that, that'd be helpful.
Okay. Liberty Lake rocks.
It already is one of those, and it's where you pick up a rock
And
that
that's,
has paints on it.
that's already better than just calling it the Zen City site,
Yes.
right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing we're looking at.
So that's what I believe, that's what.
Yeah, I heard one at city council a couple weeks ago, I liked it, but. And I'm kind of confined to it because I immediately like it, so that's kind of stifled my creativity. Which is why I'm not gonna tell you what that idea was. I don't want your creativity stifled like mine has become.
Okay, so we got that for, that'll be on the agenda is just however many suggestions you have. And let's go through them.
Yeah.
And then pick out a top three and then we'll pick out the top three. Okay. City Academy potential session of feedback and surveying. I actually asked David if there was anything that you could incorporate in your City Academy sessions that when you got feedback and surveying, so, and I don't know if that can be incorporated in city, and then you know how successful the City Academy sessions are. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, so our intent would, of course, have some kind of feedback tool to know what people like, didn't like, what is right for change, and we would propose to run that through Zen City. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, and during the session, we would be promoting the use of Zen City for the engagement pieces of it outside of the Academy survey, but certainly we would push the Academy survey through Zen City.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So it will give us a chance to see how that city that is really capable of, because
Sure.
it's a powerful program.
And if I can say one more thing on the academy,
Yes.
we're at a point where we're inside of a month now before sort of kickoff.
4 weeks
And so-
tomorrow.
Yeah, so we have one more council meeting, possibly two, depending on the decision they make to have another April meeting. For that word to go out in a council session. So I'm just asking you all as individuals and then as a corporate commission, just make sure that you're telling people about this. We already have started getting registrants, and I believe the registration, I'm gonna call it portal, is up and running, and so people can register on.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
I believe so.
yeah, look at item number, whatever that was on my
So
list,
am I skipping ahead?
2 or
Sorry.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the, it's on a separate webpage right now on the website. Tomorrow, there will be a banner at the top. It'll be there for 4 weeks. We'll be doing weekly promotions on this on Facebook every Thursday, the 4-week countdown. And then whatever you can do to direct people to the Facebook post, to the homepage, to your neighbors, yourselves, to attend this.
How many spots available for the first? Like not bad, right? How many?
Currently are still open, at least 14
Okay, I would just think that in our posting, that would be helpful, like, oh, there's
seats available, I would say.
10 seats available after whatever.
I think on Eventbrite, it does say how many seats are available.
Oh,
Right.
that's okay.
Yeah,
And
that's what
just-
I'm saying, using that data would be helpful maybe in our little post, because
Sure.
people here get excited, they know things go fast here.
Do we have 6 already registered?
I haven't seen the number.
So one of the things that we can do on that, I believe that we have the spring calendar event, that's finalized. I see it posted out there. So one of the things we talked about at one of our last previous meetings was after it's finalized, we would each get some and deliver them. Is that where, did you
I'm
mention
doing that
that?
right now. I'm-
Okay,
I'm
Mark
gonna-
said that. Thank you,
David
Mark.
walked away to the sunny day, so tomorrow looks like a sunny day, so that's what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay,
And if
and
anybody
I'll
wants
help
to
you
do it
if
as well,
needed. Okay,
if you even want to take some tonight, feel free to take any on that table or on the table outside. Let me know if you need me to print up more though.
okay, great.
And I will note that, we did post this on Facebook yesterday. We've got a lot of looks, a lot of links to that thing. It's also on the community page. I think it's on Liberty Lake Together. I did have one post from somebody who indicated that she believed that one date has changed regarding when school is being let out in June. I'm gonna wait until I hear that officially from the school district, because I'm using what the school district gave me.
They sent it out at least to the Liberty Creek parents that because of the snow day, that now the last day of school, I believe is June 20th, or is it Tuesday?
21st. Oh, yeah.
They were going to get on Friday, Juneteenth is on Monday, which is the day off, so they'll have 3 days off and then come back for a couple of hours on Tuesday. and then done.
Wow.
Because of one snow day.
The snow day.
Wow.
This is the built-in day to.
When did that come out?
Take one of those teachers
Few weeks ago.
days and have the kids come in for a couple hours. and-
Well, that's,
Well, there we go.
Okay.
And I will add to that one, by the time we get to June, there will be a new summer calendar anyway, so we will correct it.
And that's what I'm gonna put on this. I'm gonna work harder on this work plan, because we need to actually start thinking about the summer calendar now. Perfect, so that's what requested items for the agenda. We'll continue the virtual coin proposal. And we're gonna look at the workshop, we're gonna add mailer card proposal and the budget. And see what we can come up with, and some ideas. We'll have each person will give 2 or 3 suggestions for Van City. And I will continue on the 2023 planning. I'll have a better plan next time for everybody. And that'll keep us busy. Anything else that I missed?
Can I bring something up?
Yes, Mark, please do.
A meeting last week, I think it was, or no, week before last, Barefoot in the Park. Coming up. It's gonna include, give everyone an overview of what the meeting went. It's gonna include a big car show like it did last year. It's also gonna have the fun jumpy toys for all the kids. We are going to tie in, because of Jandy, our director of library, she's gonna be on maternity leave. And her third baby. Touch a Truck was gonna be canceled. Well, I didn't want to see Touch a Truck being canceled, so I took it over. That yesterday, we are tying it in with Barefoot.
Yay.
We will have Touch a Truck. Working with Trevor on that. The beer garden the Kiwanis will have their beer garden. If you guys recall last year where the beer garden was located, it was right in front of the stage. So people who are, there to watch the music had to either go on the far side or come up with us, up with where we were with our golf carts. They couldn't be where they normally are. So they're gonna reconfigure the beer garden this year to where people will be able to sit in front of the stage and do their thing. Last year, they had an issue with with losing people. It went from like 11 to 4, and then between 4 and 6, nothing was going on until the band came on. Well, this year they have 2 bands. They're gonna have one that come on at 4 till 6, and then another one will be coming on at about 6:15 until 8. Don't know what the bands are gonna be. I suggested to Tim Olson, who is in charge of getting the bands, I suggested for him to reach out to Sean Owsley with Q6. He's got his own band called The Rising, used to be the Blue Mustangs. So he's gonna look them up. So that's, the other thing is that they're gonna have a tent there with the library. And I was hoping that we could have our, coincide and have our tent like we did last year. Didn't we have one last year with the
Yes, we did.
Parks and Art? We did the painting of the rocks or something like
We did
that.
it at the wristband table.
That the
We did it at
Yeah.
the wristband.
I would like to see us do that again. If you want to add that to your task.
Okay.
And then have people sign up to man it, and we can work with the Parks and Art people, so someone's not there all day, come in and work an hour or whatever. Because there's only be up until from 10 to 4 or 11 to 4, whenever it runs. More to come, so
Okay,
it's
great.
gonna be a very successful Fairfield Park this year, I think.
Great. I'm so glad that we were able to keep the Touch a Truck.
Yes. It'll be downsized, but what the heck, it's kind of.
But it's there, and I think it's important for the community, and it was, that whole Barefoot in the Park. If you remember the favorite event display we did at Farmers Market, we got a lot of response. People were voting. It's an important event to the community. Am I missing anything? April 19th, 2023, 6:00 PM is our next meeting.
Oh, let me add, for the next city council meeting, if anybody wants to volunteer to give the CEC report for that, just let me know. You know me, I like to have a rotation of all faces in there if we can. I think Parks and Arts does that as well. I was at one of their meetings and they were assigning who was gonna do it for each month. So if anybody wants to volunteer either tonight or in the coming days, let me know, and it can either be your own summary or I can assist you with some talking points. Up to you.
What do you need to know, Mike?
What time is the council meeting?
7
By the, I would say by the end of this week.
Council meeting next Tuesday. David, you don't hear anything from anyone else.
Okay.
So whatever, we'll talk.
Hey, is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.